What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Gloves Off, episode number 8, almost at episode number 10. We got James McSweeney here, the host of Gloves Off. What's going on, James? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm great, mate. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. It seems like you had quite a crazy week. I mean, it just came out that you also have another upcoming fight, but even the craziest news, I think, thing that you're trying to juggle was 18 kids this week that showed up at your house, man. What was that like, and what was that for?
Yeah, well, we come back. We had a Halloween party at the house for my daughter. So, of course, we had a slight celebration of Halloween. Was in America, but at the house we had it. All of our friends from where we live here come over, and we just had lots of games, Halloween games. My wife is very good at planning this kind of stuff. So they had, rather than like bobbing for apples because they're too young, they had like donuts on strings. Then we organized in my neighborhood where we lived. I went around to all the neighbors and said, hey, the kids are going to come around trick-or-treating. Can you gave them loads of candies to give to the kids. So we went and did that because, of course, Halloween is not so big here in Thailand, So all the Western kids, all the kids from all over the world that celebrate when they see the normal houses, and they gave out Halloween gifts and different candies and so forth. It was just a big party for the kids, really, which was fun. But yes, it's always that many children in a small place is always very funny. But Jesus, by the end of the day, it was like a training camp. I was exhausted. Like at the end of the day, I was like, oh, it's got to be bedtime. All the kids left. The house was trashed. We had to clean it all up, and no, but it was a fun day. It was cool.
It was like reliving the Ultimate Fighter season 10 house all over again, I bet.
You know what? I think it was worse. These kids trashed the house worse than we did. But it's all in good jest and good fun, and they're all a good bunch of kids. And my daughter had a great time, so that's the main thing.
Before we jump into the show, I got one more question about that party. What was up with that box of donuts with the strings hanging out of it? We're looking at your Instagram page right now on the video cast. What was up with that? What is that?
Well, rather than like bobbing, like usually adults, we bob for apples. You put apples in the water, and then you put your head in, and you got to try and bite an apple or something. Well, of course, they're too young, or it's too dangerous to put their heads underwater, right? So my wife came up with the idea of getting a load of donuts on strings and having the kids put their hands behind their back, and they had to bite into the donuts and eat one as quick as they could to win. So, of course, it's just an excuse to give kids sugar and candy and donuts, which they loved. But, of course, we made a game of it as well, so it was right.
Yeah, it's so funny. The little one dressed up as what, a lion? Is that what she dressed up as?
My daughter was a fox.
Okay.
Then all the kids, she wanted me to be a mouse, so I was meant to be dressed up as a mouse. But funny enough, you couldn't find a mouse costume that could fit me, thank God. So I just got away with a Halloween T-shirt this time. But yeah, all the kids made a good effort. There was Draculas and all kinds of death brides and all sorts. It was funny. It was good. It was a good laugh.
So also to kind of like transition into some of the topics that we're going to be talking about today, were you wearing the Ultimate Fighter or the UFC 25-year anniversary shirt? Is that what you're wearing there?
What is this one? This is a KSW shirt.
No, so. the one from the one from the Halloween party, the red one I think it says 25-year.
No, I didn't know it was a Halloween. That was just a pure Halloween T-shirt. No. So no, it wasn't. But no, I do have a 25-year T-shirt. I got sent one in the mail, so which was pretty cool. But yeah, no, 25 years is crazier. Like the first time, I remember the first time even watching the Ultimate Fight. I didn't know nothing about it. I was doing Thai boxing, just starting. What year was it? End of '95. Yeah, I was just doing Thai boxing back then, and I'd heard about it. I hadn't seen it for a long time, but you'd heard like this Chinese whisper across the martial arts industry about this, elite level of fighting, and it was like. Of course, back then, I was probably like 16 years old, 17 years old. And I just heard these Chinese whispers in the martial arts industry of like, oh, we're going to find out what's the best martial art in the world. It's being tested. And it was almost being painted as like underground. You know what I mean? Like this guy's versus this guy, a karate guy versus a boxer, and then taekwondo versus Muay Thai. And then, of course, jiu-jitsu. No one even really heard of it back then. And it was just like this. It was just like this phantom combat arena we heard about, but I didn't see it until a couple of years down the line, because of course even the internet wasn't really around back then, so it wasn't even like you could even look it up. you know. So it wasn't until it started to get a bit more. I think it was UFC 3 I saw, but it wasn't. I didn't see it live. I saw it like 6 months after or something like that. Someone had got a video or a DVD somewhere and showed me it.
Man, and you definitely made a staple inside the scene with, even fighting one of the Gracie family members at one point in your career, which must have been huge coming off of, the Gracie name, which basically is mixed martial arts in a lot of people's minds, at least from back in the day,
Well,
especially.
I think there was a lot of special names back then, but of course, no one is ever going to forget Hoist Gracie about, seeing this, back then, without no disrespect to Hoist whatsoever, just seeing this really skinny guy in a gi just taking people apart, absolutely dismantling them. And I mean, even the refereeing back then, he would get on a chokehold or an armbar or something, and the guy was tapping out, and the referee didn't even know why he was tapping. Do you know what I mean? Even he didn't have an understanding of, hey, he's breaking the guy's arm, like get him off. You know what I mean? So everyone was kind of learning about the sport, right? But yeah, I'll never forget watching Hoist just walk through people. And to be honest, I was a huge fan. And the first MMA belt I ever received, I think it was the first one I ever received, Hoist Gracie presented it to me in England.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a really, even though it was just, it was a local show in England. There's a world, it's a world title, right, in mixed martial arts. But at the end of the day, it's a world title, but is it really a world title? It's like, I beat a guy from Germany, for a world title of an English show. So yeah, it's a world title, but it's not like I won the UFC belt or some little Bellator belt, is it? So, but to have Hoist was there in the audience, he's a special guest, and he presented the belt to me as the main event, and that was very special to me. I'll never forget it. I've actually got pictures of me and Hoist together, and that was the first time I met him. And that was in probably early 2000, 2001 or something, 2002. So yeah, it was amazing to see him, 5-6 years, seeing him on TV, walking through these people MMA, and then 6 or 7 years later, I was winning a world title and he was giving me my belt. So that was really fantastic for me.
So honestly, back then there were no DVDs, there was no online. You had to watch it on VHS back in the day. From
That's
like
right. That's right.
Blockbuster. My first
Yeah,
time.
and that was the thing. And that was the thing, I think, because there wasn't so much accessibility. People's imagination always make it worse, don't they? They was like, oh wow, the guy did this, and the guy, like every time it gets like passed on to a new person, the story gets more brutal and more worse and more glorified. Do you know what I mean? So you really heard some really death-defying stories, but actually when you did get to see it eventually, they had no gloves and they were bare fist and headbutting and stuff like that they were doing. And I remember seeing a Hoist grabbing, it's really Kimbo. Was it not Kimbo? Chemo's hair. And he would just punch him in the face, but he had a handful of his hair. He had a top knot. He had a handful of his hair, just punch him in the face. And it was like, wow, this is the real as it gets.
Yeah, I mean,
When did you first see it?
honestly, I was a little kid. I was so entangled in WWE when I was a little kid. I was literally so obsessed. I even did my first interview when I was 7 years old because I had family in radio. I did it with Stone Cold Steve Austin, but it got to the point where I was like, all right, WWE is getting old. What else is out there? And, walking through Tommy K's, they would have this big wall for wrestling. And then they had UFC 1. And I remember you had to be 18 to rent it. So my dad was with me. He ended up getting it for me. And I remember like questioning him. I'm being like, is this real? He was like, did you see that guy's tooth just fly out? Like, yeah, this is definitely real, because I was coming off from, trying to stomach that my favorite thing in the world was fake, but yet here I was watching something that was actually real and pure. So ever since then, that was a huge eye opener. And like you said, back then it was almost like it was so underground that I didn't even think it would make it to where it is today. I really didn't. I thought it was just gonna come in one year and out a next.
Well, to be honest, and I think it clearly wasn't going to make it, was it? Until it got brought out by Zuffa. I don't think it was going to make it because it was banned in pretty much every state in America at some point, apart from 1 or 2.
And after,
it was never going to get TV production with, or even broad stream sponsors with the rule set. So when the Fertitas bought it and cleaned it up with Dana, put gloves on, stop the headbutts and the knees to the head and stuff like that. And I think that they obviously made it a legitimized sport and then took it completely to another level. But even still, up until Ultimate Fighter 1 with Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonner, they were looking at going bankrupt.
Yeah,
You know,
they
and it'd been around a while for that time until then. So, I mean, that's why I think that, of course, that fight of Stefan and Forrest was iconic and an amazing fight and put it on the map. But that also saved the company, and I think that that's what has always made that fight even more special. Nothing would have happened today if it wasn't for that fight or that series of the Ultimate Fighter.
you definitely make a great point. I mean, when Art Davie had it and sold it, I think it was like $1 million that they picked it up for, Dana, the Fertitta brothers, and they were like, "We're buying three simple letters. It's the UFC. That's what we're banking on here, the Ultimate Fighting Championships." And they were, if you watch the documentary and go back on the history, the company was going to fail. Like they were losing tons and tons of money up until that season, Ultimate Fighter. When I saw that, my teachers were talking about it in school the next day after the finale. It blew up after that finale with Forrest and Bonner. I agree.
That was it was a clean save, and that's why Dana's always made it very clear that Stefan and Forrest will always be iconic to the sport, always have a job inside the UFC at somewhere. He's been very loyal to a lot of his hardcore staff that have been around from the beginning. But I think that yeah, it never would have got to that next level. And that's why sometimes like these other shows that come up and say, you know, oh yeah, but they bought it so cheap and now it's $1 billion company, as if it was, you know, it did it itself. They spent millions and millions and millions at a loss for it to finally, luckily, well, not luckily, but believe in the product, believe in a product, believe in a product until we've tried everything. This is our last hope. And the Ultimate Fighter 1 happened. And of course, fantastically, it saved the sport and it's never looked back since. And now been sold for billions of dollars, which is, you know, amazing business attribute. But I mean, it's provided a sport for everybody. I mean, if you think about it, without mixed martial arts, you just think about how many lives it's saved or helped along the way. Young kids, adults, interest. I mean, sport in itself. I mean, I heard a very good interview with Teddy Atlas the other day, and he was talking about how iconic boxing is and how many years it goes back and how much it's done for people, gave people hope. MMA's done the same thing. It's gave new kids nowadays a hope to success. What do you want to do when you grow up? I want to be, a Formula One racing car driver. I want to fly to the moon. These kids now want to be MMA fighters. When I was a kid, that didn't exist. This wasn't a career. This was just it was a hobby. This was a sport. This was something you did on the side. A lot of people have done this sport and had full-time jobs existing, whereas now it's completely a full-time job for high-level guys. So it saved a lot of people and it's gave a lot of people hope. I mean, if you think about it, like if somebody like, I don't know, let's just say, pick a champion. Who would you say a normal champion is out there right now? If you said Anderson Silva from Brazil, not from the nicest part of Brazil, maybe not the worst part, but not the nicest part. Well, he's made millions of dollars and become an absolute superstar athlete. You can too. Just that on its own, saying to a young child who doesn't want to dream high, completely could save somebody's life.
Yeah, but
And
speaking
I
of
think
Brazilians, look at Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo, poor
yeah,
kid.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm just saying. Not just talking of you could
Yeah.
name off hundreds of athletes right now that are in the mixed martial arts world. I mean, we've all got a story. I mean, we've all got. I had a good family, but I had a poor upbringing. I had a bad family, but I had this upbringing. Everyone's got a story. That's just the cut and dry of it. But it's gave so many people so much. So there was so much riding on the fact of the UFC's success, but nobody knew it at the time. Now it's so successful. It's gave so many of hundreds. I mean, Dana's made so many millionaires, but he's also made millions and millions of people out there hope. The UFC has given that. Bellator has given that. Rizin's given that. ONE FC's given that. There's a number of shows out there now that are climbing the ladder that are giving so many people hope to have a successful life and follow a dream. And you could just imagine if there was never an Ultimate Fighter 1, if there was never the UFC, it wouldn't exist now.
And honestly,
And what a loss to the world it would be.
and after 25 years, there's still things that definitely could be changed at this point. And there's even places in the world. I mean, New York just legalized it like last year, 2 years ago. Like it's still growing so much. I think in France it's still legal, right? It's like,
In Paris, it's still illegal. You can train it, but you can't fight it there, which is absolutely crazy. But this is what I'm saying. It's come so far in 25 years, but it's still so far to go. I mean, if you look at boxing, for example, boxing is the oldest sport in the world. It was, the first sport to get put into the Olympics. And that's been around for hundreds of years. And even boxing now still has so much more it can do, so much more to go, so much more growth, and MMA is only been going for 25 years, and it's already so big, so powerful, and so much money, but it has a lot of things it can do. I mean, in my opinion, the judging system is absolutely ludicrous. I mean, I heard Joe Rogan speaking the other day, and I think it's very true that you see judges judging boxing matches and then judging MMA, but they have no background in either. No background on either side, and they don't understand that being a judge, losing on a decision can be so hurtful and fundamentally bad for an athlete. Where to them it's just a job, it's just another fight. They're going to do another fight the next day, the week after, so forth. But for a fighter that's climbed the ladder and got all the way up to get his shot, and to earn that amount of money and get his shot at the title, for example, and to lose on a bullshit decision when really he won the fight, but they made a bullshit, uneducated decision, and now they're bottom of the pile again. They've got to start again. They've got to climb their way back up and climb their way back up because there's no sanction. And this happens in boxing too. This happens in MMA. And this is what Joe was talking about the other day. And it's funny because I think anyone in the industry with half a brain or half a bit of knowledge in the sport understands that the MMA or judging in general has been so bad for so long, but there's nothing being done about it. And I think that, for my opinion, I've had a couple of shit decisions this year myself. So I mean, there's not many fights of mine that have gone to judges, but these two this year were absolutely, in my opinion, fucking ludicrous. When I watched the fights back, I'm like, what fight was you fucking watching? I don't understand. And I'm not even being, usually I'm hard on myself. And I think that maybe I lost it if I went to decision because I should have knocked him out. But I don't see how I lost the fight, and it fucking drove me crazy. But and it's still happening on so many levels across the board, and there's no sign of change yet. So that, in my opinion, that's one thing I would love to see changed.
well, you were on the season Ultimate Fighter where Adelaide Bird was most publicly known for making one of her very first mistakes, where there was the fight between Roy Nelson and Justin Wren. And Justin Wren was clearly winning the fight in my eyes, and it immediately cut to Rashad, Dana, and everyone's going, someone's getting fucked here. If it's not going to the extra round, someone's getting fucked here.
Yeah, listen, I was ringside. I was in ringside, and I was in Justin's corner, I think, for that fight. And Justin won that fight hands down. Hands down, Justin won that fight. And it's like, this is 10 years ago, and it still sticks into my mind that the kid was robbed. And I mean, listen, this is not just one. We could name off fucking, sadly enough, we could name off hundreds, thousands of fights where you can just go there and you see, let's look at Justin Wren, for example. Great kid, very religious, good heart. Back then, this is 10 years ago. Same kid today, going out there and helping a lot with charities and doing all sorts of work out there. Great kid. Super talented, good wrestler. Didn't get the respect he deserved after that loss. Didn't really get the shot that he needed, in my opinion. And I think it hurt. I think it hurt his confidence. And all because of that one bullshit decision put him back 8-9 years. Now he's in Bellator and he's doing okay, but he's still not perceiving MMA, I don't believe, as a first and foremost career. I think he's putting his charity work first, which is fantastic. I'm not saying he shouldn't. What I'm saying is that he didn't need to do that. He would have, if he would have got the respect he deserves and got the victory he deserved over Roy Nelson, me and Justin Wren would have fought instead of me and Roy, and everyone's path would have been different. Now, If Justin beat Roy and Roy beat me, yeah, then maybe Justin would have beat me. Who knows? We don't know. We don't know. That wasn't the path that was laid out. But because of that one fucked up bullshit decision, the path is what we got, right? But it's just a shame when you see someone who works so hard and deserves the success and they don't get it. It's heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching, especially as an athlete when you know how much people put into it. We all shared the same house back then, and I saw Justin train. I knew his story before the fight, and I saw him after, and I had to see it. I had to watch how he dealt with it after too, you know. And it's heart-wrenching. It's heart-wrenching. And them fucking judges, they don't have the knowledge. They don't have. There's nothing they got to do to pass, to say to be a judge. I mean, and even they're not being held responsible for decisions they make.
Well, even
I don't
Adelaide,
understand.
the reason why she got into reffing is because I believe her husband is also a judge. I mean, judging. I think her husband's a
Yeah,
judge.
it gives a shit. It's crap. I mean, my wife's an amazing lady. She could do loads of things. Just because I'm a fighter, does that mean she should be a fighter too? No, of
Yeah,
course not. We've got
exactly.
different talents. We've got different talents. It doesn't mean that. You know what I mean? It's absolutely stupid. That's even put out there. I mean, I'm not picking on her or putting names
Yeah,
on
yeah.
her. She's not the only one. I mean, there's another, unfortunately, hundreds, and it ain't just in the UFC. They're across the board, and unfortunately, they're not being held responsible.
Well, we saw it last night on the 25-year anniversary, which is why I think it's great that we're bringing up what needs to change. Last night, Chaz Skelly, who's been on my show before in the past, wonderful guy, great on the ground, knows what he's doing. He got submitted because the ref stepped in before he was out. It was very controversial. So the question is, should MMA bring in instant replay, and how would that work? Should this go to a no contest? How do you think that could change?
I don't think you could do an instant replay because at the end of the day, a part of like a submission is the surprise of the submission being put on. That is what usually makes a submission get a. I mean, you may know how to escape a submission, right? Let's say you put on a Darce choke. Now, if I went into the gym with one of my students and said, I know he knows how to escape a Darce choke, I taught him it. Let's say he knows. I said, right, 3, 2, 1, escape. He goes through the motions and does the drill and he escapes. But if we were free rolling and I went for, I don't know, let's say an Americana, he defended it and I slipped him into a Darce. He was surprised I got the Darce and I'm going to finish it. Maybe he couldn't escape because the surprise happened. If you go to an instant replay and, okay, he wasn't out, put the Darce back on, let's go. You can't do that because now he knows you're going to do it. So, yes, he probably could escape because you gave him the heads up. Do you know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is, if a choke is applied, if the guy didn't tap, you shouldn't step in.
Now, I also agree with you saying that
Because
the ref
clearly,
should have
because
a
clearly,
background.
because clearly he's not asleep, right?
Well, yeah, that's why the refs need to know what they're looking at. Like every single ref needs to be certified in my. I don't know what
Well,
belt they should have, but
it's a simple thing to look at. Either he's asleep or he's tapping. If he's not asleep, then don't stop it. Because if the guy is like half a fraction from being choked, but he's surviving, he can gently breathe. I mean, they should live like. I mean, it goes back to like the old WWE days, right? You thought he's out, he's not responsive. Pick up one of his arms and drop it and see if
yeah,
he stops it. The old Hulk Hogan trick. I don't know. There's things you can do if they were medically trained. I mean, there's things that emergency services do when they turn up at a crash scene and they can't move the victim, but they check to see if he's conscious. There's things they can do, but an untrained that referee panicked. He made a mistake. He jumped to the call. I mean, let's look at it from two ways. He wasn't trying to escape. If the choke was 90% on and he was, it was delayed, another maybe 10, 15 seconds, he probably would have been put to sleep anyway. But it's not the point. It's not the point at all. This is the highest level of mixed martial arts. If the guy is about to be choked out and he isn't tapping, you got to let him go to sleep. That's the decision. He wants to. He's not escaping. He's fully prepared to go to sleep. Then that's it. Let him go to sleep. It's like stopping. stopping the fight one punch before he's dead on his feet. Yeah, I get that. But at the end of the day, in MMA, they don't stop the fight when you're dead on your feet. They're not doing it. When the guy gets put to the floor, he's been dropped. It's not boxing where they're going to jump in after the first punch. They still wait 2 or 3 punches on the ground. The guy's not responding. And they start jumping and stop the fight. Chokes are no different. I mean, arm bars and breaks, yes, I believe is different. If the referee believes he's not tapping and he sees that his arm's about to break. If you remember when Frank Mir did Tim Sylvia.
Oh, God.
He snapped his forearm. Tim Sylvia didn't tap.
He didn't
Frank
even
broke
flinch.
his forearm. Yeah, Frank broke his forearm. Tim Sylvia didn't know. The referee jumped in. I think it was John McCarthy. Jumped in and stopped the fight. And Tim was going crazy about it after. Like, why'd you stop it? Why'd you stop it? But, experienced John McCarthy saw the break and he stopped the fight.
Yeah,
and of course, he probably saved Tim's career because Tim was never the same after that, and he would have been a lot worse if he hadn't stopped it. But breaks are different than submissions, than chokes.
It's
I think
happened
so.
to Henzo too. Henzo with a big smile on his face with a broken arm.
Yeah, I mean, that's a referee's decision. I think that's smart because there's a decision there where even if you remember Matt Hughes versus Royce Gracie, Royce wasn't tapping to that armbar. His arm was bowed over. And he's flexible and double jointed, but Matt Hughes was about to snap his arm for sure, and Royce was not going to tap. They were right to stop that, but last night I don't think they were right to stop it. In my opinion, I think that you should let the guy go to sleep. If he's not tapping to a submission like a choke, then he should go to sleep.
So you did watch the fights last night with Korean Zombie and Yair?
I saw all the highlights. I didn't watch them live because of the time. I got to see all the highlights. I mean, the Korean Zombie, what a fight. I mean, that was absolutely fantastic. I mean, we can talk about the finish, but that takes a little bit of discredit away from the Korean Zombie. I mean, we've seen him have absolutely multiple wars, right? I mean, he's a phenomenal athlete. It's a shame that he lost that way. Because I think, like I saw his post this morning saying sorry to his country and he feels ashamed and embarrassed. He has nothing to feel embarrassed for. He just got caught with a very amazing shot with an elbow. But it was an amazing fight. The fights like that is what goes down in history, and especially on the 25th anniversary of the UFC. I think that's fantastic.
Absolutely huge, man. So there have been changes that we're still making. I mean, the UFC even got rid of the flyweight division this week. Did you catch that? What was your initial reaction to that?
I think the flyweight division's always struggled, right? And I think, to be honest, it's struggled. But it's hard because Mighty Mouse, in my opinion, was an amazing athlete. I think he's a great fighter. He's done some amazing technical things. I'm not too sure why the crowd didn't respond too much to him, to his personality or his fight personality. Because in my eyes, technically, he's absolutely fantastic, amazing athlete. I think it's always struggled to find a superstar. And at the end of the day, I think it's a business decision rather than a fan decision. If you had the flyweight main event, it always struggled to sell pay-per-views. It always struggled to sell main events. I think, to be honest, it would have been a perfect excuse to not scrap the division, because I think that's a mistake, in my opinion, and of course that's just my opinion. But I think it would have been a perfect time to have, like, okay, let's have a tournament. Let's do something. Let's mix it all up. Let's let one of the contenders come up and fight for #1 spot. Let's really, use this as a stepping stone to, like, everyone's on an even playing field and start again and find ourselves a superstar. But instead of that, they scrapped it, and I found a lot of people lost a job.
And it wasn't that long ago when the featherweight division wasn't that exciting. People weren't tuning in for pay-per-views. I mean, Jose Aldo was the champion for 10 years, from the WEC going to the UFC. People weren't tuning into that until Conor McGregor came around. Could you imagine if they scrapped the featherweight division? Our sport would be not as well known or recognized as it's been the last couple of years, that's for sure.
This is a part of one of the changes that I think needs to be made. And I mean, we're going to talk about, like, I don't know, people have always talked about, like, having not a governing body, but having the fighters have rights and stuff like this, and have more. It's not. I mean, could you imagine any other industry in the world where you just turn up to work and they say, no, you guys are good at your job, but you're a little bit boring. So we're going to fire you all. Cut you all your contracts. See ya. You couldn't get away with that. It'd be impossible. So I find, it's a shame that so many athletes now have been found without a job, or so many being pushed to fight at a higher weight class, because I think that's not their true weight class at all. So they're going to struggle. I think it's a real shame. My heart goes out to all of them. I think even that have fought their whole lives to get into the highest level, and to get there to be just cut without any notice. I think that really sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke with Shorty Torres this week. I spoke with Jared Brooks this week. All of them are really upset, but Shorty was like, this might be even better for my career if I go to one or if I go to another organization. But, what are your thoughts on that? Is it going to be better for them or no?
It's not going to be better for them, is it?
No.
Because if it was better for them to go somewhere else, they would have been somewhere else at the beginning. That's just a way of making a positive outcome from a negative situation, which is fantastic outlook on life. And I'm not knocking it whatsoever. And if you fall in a bucket of shit, you want to come out smelling the roses. That's great. I'm all for it. But the fact of the matter is that we all know, everyone can have an opinion and say, oh yeah, ONE FC or Bellator is this or what. The fact of the matter is, most of us are in this sport to fight the very best guys in the world and earn the best amount of money. And that what anyone says, that's in the UFC.
I 100%
that's it.
Agree.
You know what I mean? So yeah, if you've got no other platforms like us, like for me, when I got cut from the UFC, of course I still have to make a career. I still have to feed my family. I'm still going to chase a dream. I'm still going to get paid. I'm still going to fight, but I'm not going to say, well, you know what? For the last 7 years, I fought for ONE FC, KSW. I fought for all these companies. Yeah, they're all fantastic and they're great, but everyone still knows the number one company is the UFC, and there's a lot of companies chasing them and they're getting better. And who knows the next 10 to 15 years? But UFC's got a 20-odd year head start on everybody. So you can call it what you want to call it, but they're still the number one company in the world. They earn the most money. They do the most pay-per-views. They have the highest level of athletes at the highest level. That's it. Doesn't mean anyone's any less, as in the other companies aren't good or pay well or still good athletes. They all are. But you want to be number one and you want to fight the best guys in the world. It's in the UFC. And, it's just disrespectful, and the guys are very hurt to know all these years to follow your dream. It's kind of like being a fan of somebody. Like you're a fan of, I don't know, let's put it out there. Let's say you're a fan of Robert De Niro, and you've waited all your life. You've gone to all the premieres. You've gone to all the signings. You've watched all these movies. You know every speech and every line he says. And eventually one day you get to meet him after 15 years of trying to, and he's an absolute cock to you. He's a complete arsehole to you. You're going to say, well, fuck him anyway. I didn't want to meet him anyway. Well, you did. It's just when you got there, it wasn't what you thought it was going to be. And that's what's happened to the flyweight division, is that they've got all that way there, and then just to be cut out of nowhere, it's not what they thought. It's not the respect they deserve. So it's left a very bad taste in their mouth, and so it should.
You literally just nailed it right on the head. That was a really good comparison right there. Which,
that's the way you can compare it, I mean, that's the way you can compare it, because, you followed your dream, you've worked hard, you sacrificed, you haven't seen your wife, your family, your kids, you've gone away for training camps to do the best you can do, to be the best athlete and MMA fighter you can for years, and then you're finally there, you have a fuck for the fights, and because the champions left, the whole company has fired you. I mean, how else could you? You're not going to feel great about it, are you? I mean, you're not going to feel respected. You're not going to feel that you got what you deserve. You sacrificed everything. You put that company before your own family to a degree, for them to turn their back on you and shut the door, slam a door in your face and say, no, we don't want you no more. See ya. Good luck. I think it's terrible.
Honestly, let us know what you guys think on Twitter @GlovesOffPod, and also on James' Instagram @McSweeneyMMA. James, the next thing I want to talk about here is Floyd Mayweather dropping out of his fight for Rizin. Did you peep that? And what are your thoughts on that, man? Because that was just a really weird situation altogether.
Well, I don't know. At first, for a half a second, I thought it was going to happen. I actually thought it was going to happen. I actually reached out to a friend of mine who's fought for Rizin before, and I was like, "Is this real?" And he's like, "I don't know." And so for half a second, I was almost believing it. But anyone who's dealt with companies in Asia, especially Japan, it's very difficult to communicate. I mean, Pride was very well known for bad communication and changing rules and payments and all kinds of stuff when you got there. And, of course, they spoke perfect English 1 second, and the next minute they played like they didn't understand a word that you said. It's very difficult to communicate. So there's two ways to look at it. Did Floyd go out there for a publicity stunt? And as he said, he was going to do a private exhibition fight with this guy just for the wealthy, not being televised. I don't quite believe that.
I don't either.
But I do believe that he probably went there and said, I'll fight the guy in a boxing match or under certain rules where he can't kick. And then when the press release came out, they kind of just dropped it as if it's going to be a straight off kickboxing fight. Floyd probably thought, there's no fucking way I'm doing this. And when he's got away from, I mean, I'm not too, I know who used to own, I think everybody knows who used to own Pride, if I'm not mistaken. And, it was run by a very big organization. And in Japan and most places in the world, they're very well respected. I wouldn't imagine Floyd and any of his little bodyguards would want to stand up to that crew. And I don't know if they're involved with Rizin or not. I would imagine they are.
They gotta be, right?
And yeah, I would imagine so. I would imagine so. I haven't had dealings with myself directly to make that comment to say, yeah, they are, no, they're not. You know what I mean? But I would imagine so. It would be ludicrous if anything happens in Japan without their say so. That's what made me think when Floyd got home safely on American soil, he then released his press release that he wasn't doing it and that he was being fucked over and bullied and so forth into make a decision. I mean, to be honest, if the fight went ahead and it was a kickboxing fight, we all know exactly what was going to happen. The guy would knock Floyd all over the place. He would knock him out in a heartbeat. But if it was a boxing match, of course, we know Floyd's going to win. That's been proven and tested. So, I don't know what's going on with this. What's happening with Floyd? Why he's trying to step out and make these jumping into other people's martial arts and trying to make waves in other systems and so forth. I mean, he's a controversial guy. He loves to be in the media. He's not fighting himself anymore. Like he said, I'm a retired fighter. I'm just going to come out and do an exhibition if I need to, or so forth and so forth. So it's not, he doesn't need the money, but of course he likes to be in the limelight. And of course he's not going to refuse hundreds of millions of dollars. Who would?
Well, honestly, he's showing an interest, at least, it seems like. And if he is going to continue this interest, I think the safe place to do it is inside the UFC. If it's going to be done, do it there. But like you said, James, like all these guys are, including Floyd, he wants to jump into mixed martial arts. We just saw this past weekend what happens when fighters want to jump from MMA to bare knuckle boxing. I mean, it's a different world. You can't just jump in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not. And that's what we discussed before. I was talking about coming from a K1 background or from a stand-up striking background into MMA. People just think, oh, he's good at K1, he's good at kickboxing or Thai boxing, he can be an MMA fighter, or vice versa. It doesn't work that way. I mean, we saw Bigfoot Silva step in the K1 and got absolutely obliterated by, Rico in glory. So, I mean, we can just see there's a huge difference. There's only a few athletes in the world that have done it to a high level. It's a very hard process. It takes 4 or 5 years of solid training, ups and downs, wins and losses. I mean, I've gone that path. Alistair Overeem's gone that path. Ups and downs of wins and losses. And then Alistair's one of the most intelligent martial artists I've ever met or had the pleasure of being training with. And even Alistair has had wins and losses here, there, and so forth, and had to climb ladders, drop down, come back, and had a real learning curve. I mean, he's been more successful, of course, way more than any defeats, but it's been a tough road for everyone who's tried that path. Just to think that because you're Floyd Mayweather in boxing, yeah, you're the best boxer in the world, hands down. You're not going to step in. I mean, the reason why he hasn't gone in the UFC cage, let's be real, is because to step in the UFC cage, you have to fight MMA. That's it. They're not going to let you go in there with a funky rule set. They're not going to let you go in there and box. They're not going to let you go in there and do boxing in small gloves with just knees, no kicks, or with elbows but no kicks. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do it. I can't see that ever happening. So if Floyd wants to step into that realm, he's going to have to go and have an MMA fight. He's never doing that. Let's get that straight. That's never happening. The things where you are going to see that happen would be in Japan. We've seen freaky fights out there, right? You see Hong Manchu 7'4" fight, Buakaw, or someone tiny. You know what I mean? You see all these freak sumo fights and
That's why it fit
fighting
Rizin.
kickboxing.
It fit Rizin perfectly.
Yeah, it did nothing. That's why everyone had a 1% belief in it when we heard it, because you're like, well, if there's any way this was going to happen, that would be the place, right? It isn't the UFC. Dana's never going to let that happen. I think Dana's had his running with Floyd and with the Connor, and they've got their money out of it. And I think that Dana's, I think, is more damaging to MMA sport if they were going to let Floyd come in and do anything else but MMA.
So as you move,
look at this. Look how much heat they took for taking on. I mean, Brock Lesnar was an exception, but when they took on the other WE guy, what was his name? I forget his name.
CM Punk.
CM Punk. When they took CM Punk on, I mean, look how much heat they got for that. I mean, he still had to fight MMA, right? So, I mean, that's the only. They still had to do it as MMA, not as anything else. So, I can't see that ever happening. Letting someone come in and do anything else but MMA in a UFC cage.
And I agree. Moving forward, I think the UFC should stick to legitimacy and stop doing these crazy fights. I mean, Brock Lesnar is a different story completely. We all know that. Like, he's just a specimen.
Yeah, but he was a Division 1 wrestler.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He was a Division 1 wrestler. He came with a huge background. He was a legit wrestler before he got into WWE and a superstar athlete. He brought millions and millions of people to the platform. Same as Ronda Rousey, an Olympian in judo. She brought a huge following to the sport, but they still were all had to fight MMA. So it was still legitimized. They didn't ask to come in and do anything else but fight MMA. They're never going to let anyone else come in and fight without fighting MMA.
The big controversy is, do people consider wrestlers in the WWE actual athletes? I know they do through a lot of training and stuff. Even like they train with some mixed martial arts, like Shayna Baszler, Ronda Rousey. They help the girls. Oh, now Ronda's over there. But in your eyes, are they actual athletes?
I mean, Field to Field defenders, athletes. They're all athletes for sure, because they all train, they all run diets, they're all exceptionally gifted in the fact, and they work hard. As in, you see them jump off top turnbuckles and backflips and landings, and I mean, even stuntmen are athletes. I mean, because they're doing very athletic things.
And James just froze up on us. Hopefully, it clicks back in. Connection lost. There was a problem with the network. Let's see here.
Is it there?
Back. Yep, you're back on. You're back on. It was only a split second away.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too sure why it froze there. Come up, poor connection for a second. Yeah, as I was saying, they're all athletes for sure, because they're all in great shape. They're all diet. They're all committed and learn an art. I mean, even stuntmen are athletes, because it's amazing the athletic things that they do. Are they combat athletes? No, they're not combat athletes. They're not taking punches and kicks and knees to the face. They're not martial arts athletes. They're doing like stunt work. They're doing choreographed moves with, impact flooring but it's still, don't get me wrong, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do a backflip off the top thing through a table and land and all the rest of it. Geez, I'd break my back in half. I'd be in a wheelchair. It's amazing what they do. They're not combat athletes, but they are athletes. There are an exception. There are a few of them out there that have, I'm not too familiar with him. Kurt Angle was an Olympian. I mean, you've got Brock Lesnar, a Division 1 wrestler. And I'm sure there's many across the board that have done background in wrestling, boxing, and so forth, and done some stuff. But the fact of the matter is, WWE on its own is entertainment. It's monitored as entertainment, sports entertainment. UFC and MMA in general is combat sports. It's it's impact. There's no choreograph in what they're doing. I'm sure there's some like UFC guys and sure MMA guys that could go out there and do WWE, Ronda Rousey's doing it. Brock Lesnar's doing it. There's other people out there that could have done it. There's athletes that we've all gone out there and done movie sets and done stunt work. We can do it. We can put our hands to it, but it's not our number one sport. There's some wrestlers, WWE guys, that can go and fight UFC or fight MMA, but it's not their number one. It's not what they're doing. And doesn't mean just because you do WWE, you can do UFC or MMA or any other combat sport in general, and vice versa. It's two different entertainment boards. So just be careful. It's not the same. In my idea, they're athletes, not combat athletes.
Let us know what you guys think down below. So as we move forward with the show, James, since we had to take down one of our episodes, I think it's only a good idea to talk about Tito Ortiz versus Chuck Liddell going down and what we think is going to go down in that fight, since it's only 2 weeks away. So next time we talk, we're going to know the results of this fight. How do you see this playing out? I know that we talked about it before, but we got to recover that.
I think, first of all, I don't want to see anyone get seriously hurt. I think that they're both great fighters. I mean, Tito has stayed completely active, where Chuck has been inactive, and of course is a little bit older. Dana, I think, said, and is closest to Chuck in the fact of saying he didn't want him to fight ever again, which is why he was pushing him to retire from the UFC. He took some knockouts, which wasn't like Chuck at all. He got knocked out a few times in a row, which wasn't, RASHAD did it, Rampage did it, Randy Couture did it, and that was never happening too much before. It's going to be a great draw because it's their legacy, it's their trilogy, and if you like, it's their that background that they still have a genuine dislike for each other. I think Tito takes the fight, in my opinion. I think he's but the only thing that Chuck has had is Chuck has always had this mental thing over Tito. He's always had this, I know where you come from, we've trained, I've had your number for many, many years. I don't know if that still exists to this day because Tito's been absent from the sport for so long. Chuck has been absent from the sport for so long, and Tito's been so abundant in Bellator, fighting Chael and so forth, and other top guys. So it's a very interesting fight. I mean, the fact that it's being put on under a boxing promotion is very unique, and of course, there's big money involved. It's a very unique draw. I mean, I'm gonna watch it, but do we need these kind of fights? In my opinion, I don't think either one of these guys need this kind of fight, apart from the fact they're not going to refuse that kind of money, because I'm sure they're getting great pay-per-view percentages and great money and so forth from Golden Boy Promotions. I mean, what do you know, as your side, as a fan, what and in the industry, what do you think? I mean, is this something that you're interested in? Is this something that are you watching it just for old time's sake, or are you watching it because you're just genuinely dying to see this kind of fight?
Well, I'm watching it because, first off, Tito and Chuck, just their story in general, I wish this fight happened a long time ago, if any. But if they are coming back, this is a good fight for them to go in there against one another. But then at the same time, Tito Ortiz, he just had like neck surgery. He was in like a neck brace for a couple of months. Like, I don't want to see either of them get hurt either. And Chuck Liddell is older than Oscar De La Hoya, who owns the promotion.
Well, this is what I'm saying. It's like, is it? Let's look at it from one side. Both of them don't need the money, right? Not saying they're going to refuse millions of dollars. They're both not, clearly. But at some point, the sport has to be regulated to say, yes, you're healthy to fight, but it's like, I don't know, it's like driving a car. I believe when you get to a certain age, you should have to redo your test. You should have to redo your test at 65 or something, because not saying that old people can't drive cars or whatever, but it's just it's not saying you can't, but let's just double check you're still okay. Let's just double check your reflexes are still good enough. Let's just double check that, you can perform the way you need to drive the car safely. In my opinion, God forbid, and I do mean this, God forbid someone gets hurt, seriously hurt. Tito's had back problems his whole career. He's had neck surgeries. He's had issues. Chuck himself has had some serious knockouts. He's had untold wars. He has to prove nothing to no one. They're both amazing warriors and set the stone. They put the paving stones down for most of this industry to follow. Don't forget, Tito was the golden boy of the UFC. He was the big draw. Chuck came along, was a massive draw, knocking everybody out. I mean, they've got nothing to prove. So is it going to be the Mayweather and Pacquiao fight where it's hyped up so much that it can never live up to the expectations? Or is it just going to be we have nothing to gain from this fight, everything to lose? Because if, God forbid, someone does get hurt out there, Golden Boy Promotions don't get hurt. MMA gets hurt across the board. We lose sponsors, we lose TV viewers. Why do we let this happen in? This shouldn't be on. I told you this was a bad sport. I told you this. You know, it runs that risk, right? It runs that risk.
This is why I keep bringing up like people like BJ Penn. I wish he'd do like Submission Underground instead, because this isn't a game. You can get really hurt at this age, and we've seen it happen before in the past. Luckily, we haven't lost anybody that we know, but for a lot of people, it's just all about the nostalgia of it. I'm sure for Chuck, he's been dying to get back in. If you watch him at the fights, it's like he's reliving
Yeah,
it.
Yeah, but the fact is, it's because that's amazing. We're all fighters, right? I'm 38 years of age. Even people say to me, "When are you going to stop fighting, James? When's it going to come to an end?" And I say, "I don't know. I really don't know." I mean, I've always said I'll never fight when I'm 40, but now I'm 38. I can't see that happening. But the fact is, I feel healthy. I can still train very hard. I mean, this year alone, I fought top level guys, gone out there and had great fights.
You're probably in the
I
best
don't
shape of
feel
your
like
life right now, honestly.
yeah, yeah, I don't feel like I've let the sport down. I'm not saying that Chuck and Tito can let the sport down, because they can't. Doesn't matter what they do, they'll never let this sport down. But the fact of the matter is, it's like there must be a time when it's. I mean, a fighter will never turn down a fight. I'm sure when I'm 50, some young little kid will, you know, call me a name, and I want to fight him. Do you know what I mean? Because once you're a fighter in your brain, you're going to be a fighter in your brain, in your heart, till the day you die. That's just how it is. You can go up to any of these guys and step on their toes and be disrespectful, and I'm sure you're going to get a smack in the ear. So, but there must be a point of where you just got to say, I can't perform that way anymore. This is a young man's sport. I mean, to be honest, when you look at these young guys coming through, you got to be a realist. They're absolutely phenomenal. They're absolutely phenomenal. You know, the athleticism, the knowledge. The only thing that we have on our side is that we have experience, pressure. We can handle the pressure a bit more. We have more knowledge because we see the game a lot different than I saw it. I know myself, speaking the game from now, if I knew what I knew now in the Ultimate Fighter house, I would have won the show. If I had the experience I have now in jiu-jitsu and MMA and wrestling and so forth back in 10 years ago, I would have won the show. I know it for a fact. But I didn't. And that's just how it is. This has evolved over a long period of time. And but there's got to be a point of where your experience is no longer an attribute. It becomes, yeah, your experience because you've just been around way too long, you know. I don't know. I like them both. I know Tito personally; he's a great guy, and I've got a lot of love and respect for him. I don't know Chuck personally, but I've been a huge fan for many years. I mean, who hasn't? I mean, I had the pleasure of meeting him with RASHAD in Vegas after they fought. That was the first time I saw Chuck and got to shake his hand. And I mean, that on its own, that knockout that RASHAD knocked him out with, was a very tough knockout to watch.
First time he ever got
for a
knocked
lot.
out, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't just a knockout, right? It was, I mean, that shook the world.
Yeah.
And then of course, he got knocked out again after that, and again after that, and again after that. And I think that's what really nailed it home for people like Dana, who was not just a fan or boss of Chuck; he was a friend. They rode the same wave to get there. They supported each other for many, many years. And I think that's why Dana was like, I can never fire you, but I'm not encouraging you to fight anymore. This is on my conscience. God forbid something happens to you. It's on me. It's my conscience. I'm going to be held responsible. And that's why he was eager for him to retire. Now, I mean, how many years has he been retired? 5, 6 years, maybe longer. And to come out and fight again, I mean, there's ring rust and all these things that come into play. I don't know. I just don't want them to get hurt. I don't want it to damage the sport. That's what I'm scared of.
What happens? What happens if Chuck goes in there, knocks Tito out? Should that be it, or do you think he's going to continue with this, or is he going to get it out of
I
his
mean,
system?
I mean that's what I'm saying. I don't know, but where's the end road here?
Yeah.
What's the end? What's the end path? Okay, if you're gonna get this out of your system, if you knock him out, Chuck is, of course, he's going to think, okay, well, he beat Chael Sonnen. We're in Bellator. Bellator, they're a great promotion. Am I going to go and fight for Bellator? I don't know because of my UFC connection, Dana, and so I don't know. I mean, what's the end game? If it's just an old rivalry, let's just go and put it out there. It doesn't need to exist because, to be honest, Chuck pretty much beat him fair and square. I could see Tito wanting the fight again because, I mean, that knockout he took, it was about, it was a whole flurry of punches. Bum, 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 bum. That was on every highlight reel going on for years. I could see that pissing Tito off, because, oh, you're the guy, that got knocked out that way against Chuck, But I don't know. It's just I could see it from that respect. But then even if Tito beats Chuck, well, you didn't beat him in his prime. You beat him when he'd been out for so many years. He's now this age. He's now that. I don't know his age, so I'm not trying to. I don't know. So now he's this age. You beat him when he's this age. He's not going to get the recognition he deserves.
Yeah, you're 100%
So,
right. There's always naysayers. There's always something that you could have done better, and no one's ever happy.
It's like when Mike Tyson beat Larry Holmes. People are going to say, yeah, but you didn't beat him in his prime. It's like when Larry Holmes beat Muhammad Ali. Yeah, but he didn't beat him in his prime. If they fought in their prime, Ali would have killed him. So you never get the respect you deserve. So, in my opinion, what's the point? You might just come live to terms with it. Tito's only got something to lose because if Chuck beats him, oh, you even got beat by him again. He hasn't even fought for 5 or 6 years. He's now, I don't know his age, but let's say he's 50. He's 50 years old and he beat you. Do you know what I mean? And then flip that coin over. If Tito beats Chuck, well, you beat him. He's 50 years old. Of course you beat him. You've been fighting non-stop. You ain't fought for 5, 6 years. Do you know what I mean? So you're never going to get what you deserve out of it. If they're just doing it for the money, okay, then just say, I'm just coming to get a payday. I don't give a shit. Win or lose, I don't give a fuck. I just want to get paid. I don't know. I just think it's for me. I don't know. Do you know what? I'm not going to buy it. I'm not buying the pay-per-view, that's for sure. I'm not going to encourage it, but I'll watch the highlights. I'll see who won just because of, it's a part of the podcast. It's a part of my interest. But I just pray and hope no one gets hurt.
That's the thing. Like, people don't really want to watch it, but everyone has an interest to know who's going to win the fight, at least.
No one wants to watch a car crash either. But when you see one, you still stop the car to see if everyone's all right, right?
Yeah. Yep. So,
you
guys,
don't want to see the car crash. But you still pop over and see, oh, shit, I hope there's no kids in the car. I hope everyone's okay. Oh, yeah, they're okay. Thank God. Oh, that's great. And you keep driving. But you don't want to actually see it. You don't wish for it. I don't know. This is a tough fight, I mean, I don't want not that my opinion means anything. It's just my opinion, of course. It doesn't stop people from buying pay-per-views. I wish I had that much power. I clearly don't. But I don't know. In my opinion, I'm not going to encourage it. But I wish them both the best. They're both fantastic athletes, superstars in their own right, and of course Hall of Famers, and they deserve that. I don't think they should be doing it again.
Guys, let us know what you think down below here in the comments. And by the time you hear episode number 9, we'll know the results, and we'll definitely talk about that briefly. But James, before we end today's podcast, it came up that you have another upcoming fight against somebody. What's going on? When's this fight going down? And what do you know about your opponent?
I know he's very good. Ilonga, he was in Glory. He fought Glory. He fought Showtime. He's in the top 5 in the world in K1. He fought, I'm pretty sure he fought in the tournament with Tyrone Spong, Gokhan Saki, and the Australian guy. What's his name? I forget his name. Terrible. I forgot his name. I'm pretty sure. No. The Australian guy that fought in Glory. They had a tournament, a light heavyweight tournament. Ilonga, I forget his name as well. But he's a very good level guy. He's been training in Holland a very long time. Now lives in Germany. I'm fighting him December 1st on the K1 rules for mixed fight. I fought for them before in Turkey when I fought the Iranian champion there and beat him. It's a great fight. Of course, he's a good K1 fighter, but so am I. I'm a champion in my own realm. I fought K1 for many years. It's my first passion. It's my first love. I'm training extremely hard. Of course, I believe I'm going to win. But I mean, under no illusions, it's not a tough fight. But I know my techniques are too much. I know my strength right now is too much. My experience is too much. But yes, he's in the top 5 in the world, and he's a very adaptable opponent where you have to stay very much on your toes and very smart. So it's a tough fight, but I'm very excited for the fight. I'm leaving in 2 weeks to go to Germany, and we're going to fight in Frankfurt.
And we're going to be looking forward to that. And obviously, I'm going to be tuning in if I can find the link for it. And also, big shout out to MMA Pick for making you like a little fight poster that I saw that you shared on your Instagram. I shared it on mine as well. So a big shout out to MMA Pick.
You know what? You know what? You know what? I really got to say that's really amazing, because I've been back and forth between fighting MMA and K1 and doing both. And do you know what? They're the first company or martial arts site that's ever done that. Whereas like someone even sneezes in the kickboxing gym that come from MMA background, and it's like massive news. It's all across the board. They post in, oh my God, this guy was seen maybe he's going to fight kickboxing, maybe he's going to do this. But to be honest, I never got that recognition, and I've always felt not hard done by it. But I've always wondered why. I don't know why that I never got that kind of like support from the MMA fans or from whatever to do it. But I appreciated it, and I thought, you know what, I'll share it. That's really nice of them to do that. And at the end of the day, for me, I have open contracts. My first passion was Muay Thai and then K1, and then of course went to MMA. And I have a love for all 3 realms. And why now I have open contracts and I can fight all 3, I would love to do that. So for me, I want to fight longer and dispose of him. And then, I want to go to push to get into Glory and speak with Glory. And I think there's some great fights for me in Glory, and could be available to go back into kickboxing again, more of a full time. So we'll see what happens. So this is a great fight to put me back on the map, if you like.
Are you going to be bringing the entire family out to Frankfurt again this time?
Yes, I am. Yeah, my wife and daughter come with me for the trip, and then after that, I have some seminars to do. I have to go to Bruges for a seminar. I'm going to Switzerland for a seminar, back to Germany for a seminar, and then I heading over to Cologne, and I'm going to go to the night markets and see the Christmas night markets, and have my daughter go and see Santa Claus and stuff like that before Christmas, and then we'll come back, of course, a little bit before. Yeah, so yeah, no, it's for me right now, just think of the fight, and of course I'll have some playtime after, but I'm very excited about the fight.
James, before we let you go, man, you've had one hell of a year with traveling. You were just in Disney World. I saw that you were like at the beach today with everybody. I mean, it seems like you've had a really entertaining journey this year as far as traveling and sightseeing, especially for the little one. That's got to be so cool. Like, there's always something new to look at, and you seem like an awesome father where you're just, I think it's so funny that you're going to dress up as a mouse. I really wish you did. I wish we got that picture.
Do you know what I mean? This is why I've been so passionate about martial arts my whole life. It was my first love, but I mean, everything that's good in my life has come from fighting, or come from my martial arts journey. It's like, as a young kid, it kind of kept me on the straight and narrow and stopped me going off my path. Even sometimes I went left and I should have gone right, or right and went left, or so forth, made mistakes. It's enabled me to travel the world. I mean, I'm at the time, just a little town just outside London, and I've been all over the world. And I mean, I've gone to some strangest places where I never thought people didn't have TVs. I didn't think they had, but yet they recognized me from a fight or something. So I met my wife because I was in America because of fighting. I have my daughter in America and traveled the world. Now we're in Thailand because of fighting. Everything good in my life has come from martial arts. So this is why now, when I'm coming to the end of my career, I'm so thankful and so blessed, and I owe a lot to this sport, and I want to give back, and I'm so passionate about this sport, and I love it so much. And when I talk sometimes on here, I have a hard time probably keeping my emotions in, and I say what I want to say because I'm passionate about it. Whether sometimes it's right or sometimes it's wrong, it's whatever. That's my belief, and I'm very passionate, and I believe and I love this sport, and I have a hard time when someone's disrespecting it or someone's not doing the right thing, in my opinion. So yes, I have a hard time because it's gave me so much, and it continues to do it. And that's why when I finish fighting, I have my gym and I want to give back, and I teach kids and I help train people and so forth, because without this sport, nothing good that I have in my life would ever exist. Nothing. I owe this sport so much. So for me, you know, it's the most influential, most dominant thing that I've had in my life from day one.
I still think it's so cool that you were able to get on Beavis and Butthead because of the fight on The Ultimate Fighter. That's like one of the coolest things ever.
I mean, look at that, for example. I mean, out of all of the millions of fights that's taken place, Beavis and Butthead saw my fight and chose that to do an article. I mean, I don't know whether I was lucky or unlucky they chose me, because, I mean, they painted me in a pretty good light in the end, but they gave me a nickname, Iron Shalong. I mean, I've been lucky. I've started music videos. I've done movies because of it. I mean, I've met celebrities. I've met my wife. Everything that's been absolutely amazing has come from this sport. So how can I not be passionate about it? How can I not have a love for it? You know, when you've been so blessed in so many ways, you know, that's why I owe it so much, and I'll always be nothing but in debt to it.
And that's another thing, guys. James has an upcoming movie. Quick reminder for everybody. When's that movie date release again?
It comes out in May 2019. It's going to be the premiere in Kuala Lumpur. The movie's called Sankar. It's a mixed martial arts movie. But it's funny because when I read the script and so forth, I thought, it's just going to be a typical, you know, like corny martial arts movie. But believe it or not, it's actually more of a love story than it is a martial arts movie. But there is mixed martial arts in it. There is a cage fight in it, and it is about a martial artist, kind of like the Rocky kind of situation. But there's more to the Rocky movie than just boxing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it was very much like that. So there's much more emotions and feelings in it. And of course, I had a much bigger part than I anticipated. And it's a great movie, and I'm very excited for the outcome. I mean, there's a lot of stars and superstars in Malaysia and Asia in the movie that maybe America and so forth haven't heard of. But it's a great movie, and across this side of the world, Asia and the southern side, I'm really excited about it, and I think it's going to be big. But you know, yet again, it's just another thing that I'm blessed for that's come from this amazing industry that I've been involved in, and I'll always be in debt, and I'll always have a passion for it.
Well, guys, that does it for episode number 8 of Gloves Off Podcast. If you aren't already, subscribe down below here on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, Player FM, or here on the YouTube channel where we are on Gloves Off on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, type in Gloves Off Podcast with James McSweeney. You'll see James' face pop up immediately. James, last but not least, man, thank you so much for your time. And by the time we check in next week or in 2 weeks, we're going to have a lot to discuss because it's the end of the year. We're going to talk about some of our favorite fights, and we're going to be switching up the channel a little bit with some new ideas. So if you guys have any ideas of what you would like to see on the podcast, let us know. Let James know at McSweeney MMA on Instagram. Let me know on Instagram at PureEvilMMA_. James, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And
Thank you very much.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you later, guys. Peace.